Right, let's go to the US now. Joining us is our Washington correspondent, Jonathan Kersley. He's at the White House for us. So, Jono, since we last spoke, there's been rapid developments. First of all, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. You've got the death toll from the US side of things now up to 6. And also, just moments ago, we heard from the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. So what's he had to say?
Explosive and on the front foot he was, leaving nothing off the table when it comes to the US side on this conflict with Iran. He was very forthright in what he had to say. We heard President Trump outline 4 objectives earlier in the day that what the US saw as significant for this mission, including ridding Iran of the ability to have and capability of having ballistic missiles, of the ability, lack thereof, to support terrorist groups outside of Iran's own. The Secretary of State made this abundantly clear that this is about one mission objective and one mission objective, and that is reducing and getting rid of Iran of ballistic missiles and their abilities to make them. He also said that the biggest hit yet is yet to come inside Iran. That is repeating the message we heard from the US President earlier today. But the Secretary of State essentially is putting all options on the table. And like the President and the Secretary of War before him, also not ruling out putting US boots on the ground inside Iran. Clearly, the United States is wanting to have Iran and the regime second-guess itself about what might come next. But this is some of what Secretary of State Marco Rubio had to say just a short time ago.
If we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act. You see the attacks they're conducting right now? They're attacking airports. They're attacking hotels. They're hitting not just military bases. They're attacking our embassies directly. They're attacking facilities that have nothing to do with war or with military. And that's a weakened Iran. That's an Iran despite years of sanction. Imagine a year from now or a year and a half from now the capabilities they would have to inflict damage on us. It's an unacceptable risk.
And as this conflict continues, Pete, you mentioned the latest death toll from American service members. That is now up to 6, up 2 more from earlier today. And we're also hearing through the US Embassy in Jordan that it has been evacuated because of an unknown threat. These are all just the unfolding developments we see in a conflict such as this, and this is just 72 hours or so old. President Trump did put that timeline on it again today, saying perhaps 4 to 5 weeks, but he was prepared and ready for it to go longer if indeed it needed to. But he is adamant that the United States will, in his words, easily prevail. Here's some of what he said at the White House earlier today, speaking on camera live for the first time on Iran since launching Operation Epic Fury.
Today, we grieve for the 4 heroic American service members who have been killed in action and send our love and support to their families. In their memory, we continue this mission with ferocious, unyielding resolve to crush the threat this terrorist regime poses to the American people, and a threat indeed it is. We have the strongest and most powerful, by far, military in the world, and we will easily prevail.
And Pete, as we look ahead in this conflict, we saw that statement from the United Kingdom, France and Germany yesterday, where they were weighing up entering this conflict from a defensive perspective. Well, the German Chancellor expected to be at the White House tomorrow.
OK, plenty more to watch. Jonathan Kersley with the latest from DC. Jonathan, thank you.